In 1961, Christopher Sykes and Geoffrey Skelton went to Bayreuth to make a program called A Return to the Shrine, a general impression of the yearly festival. In 1962, they returned to the shrine again, taking Joe Melchio in charge of recording gear, to study one operatic episode from first rehearsal to performance. On the advice of Herr Wieland Wagner, the master's grandson and present producer, they concentrated on Lohengrin, Act 2, Scene 1, where Herr Wagner was to produce two singers, the American contralto Miss Irene Dalis and the Chilean tenor baritone Ramon Vinay, in new roles. To enjoy a Wagner scene, one should know the libretto and the preceding story. The setting of Lohengrin is Brabant. King Henry the Fowler comes to dispense justice. The regent, Count Frierich of Telramund, tells the king how the present heiress, Princess Elsa, murdered her brother so as to gain the duchy for herself. Elsa declares that she confides her cause to an unknown knight of whom she has dreamed. The king orders trial by combat. And at the herald's trumpet, an unknown knight appears in a barge drawn by a swan. He and Elsa recognize each other as dream mates. He asks her to marry him, she accepts, and he requests her never to ask his name. She agrees. In the combat, Friedrich is defeated. End of first act. The second act opens in a castle courtyard. It is night. Within, the court celebrates the approaching wedding. On stage are Friedrich and his wife, Ortrud. Here is the libretto of the scene in shortened form.
Friedrich, we must go from here, companion of my shame. Ortrud, I cannot leave. From the sounds of the feast I draw poison that will heal us. Hateful woman, why do I not flee from you far away, far away? Even robbers shun me now. My honor is lost. Why do you lament? Because I have no sword with which to kill you. Why do you doubt me? Because you told me an evil story about a guiltless woman. You told me you saw Elsa drown her brother. You persuaded me not to marry Elsa, but yourself as the rightful heir. How deadly are your accusations. Yes, I said all this, and ruined me by your lies. Who lied? You. God proved it. Ortrud laughs. God? Friedrich, how fearful to hear that holy name from your lips. You call your cowardice God. Threaten the unknown knight, not me. If you knew his secret, you would find him weak. God's power strengthens him. God's power? Ha ha! Give me the power, and I will show how weak a god shields him. Wild sorceress, do you tempt me again? Ortrud, the time has come for the light of my eye to show you the way. Do you know who the knight is? No. Yet if you knew, his strength would vanish. Friedrich. Ha! That is why he forbade the question. Hear more. Only one person can find the answer, she whom he forbade to ask. So Elsa must be tempted to ask. Now you understand. How can we make her? You must accuse him publicly of fraud and witchcraft. If that fails, we win by force. By force! Listen again. Those who are under witches' spells are weakened by the smallest wound. Had you in battle even lightly hurt him, he would have been in your power. Oh, horror upon horror! I believed the blow was struck by God, and I find it was struck by fraud. Now I can hold him to shame and regain my honor. Oh, wife, whom I see before me in the darkness, if you have told me falsely, then woe to you, woe. Ortrud, how senselessly you rage. Learn from me the sweet joys of revenge.
Rehearsals began on the 4th of July. The cast was Irene Dalis as Ortrud, Ramon Vinay as Friedrich. Christopher Sykes reports.
At 4 in the afternoon, Joe Melchio and I are ready in rehearsal room 1. Present, the two singers, Herr Kunsch of the Hamburg Opera at the piano, and the promptress, Fräulein Düssing, also of Hamburg. It is a big, bleak, bare room, in the middle of which a piece of scenery representing a recessed wall has been erected. Herr Wagner comes in and shakes hands all round. Then he sits down with the singers and describes the characters of Friedrich and Ortrud as he sees them. Friedrich is simple, a soldier, rough, brutal, angry, direct, a dark character, but an honest man, remember that. She, true evil, the artist in crime, devoid of all love or sweetness. She is ice cold, an intellect without a heart, Delilah. Sie ist eiskalt, he repeats. Now they are going to begin. Positions on the set are worked out, and Ramon Vinay immediately sees difficulties. Interpretation is to be symbolic, he says, but his movements necessitate realism. Wieland Wagner agrees on changes. In the theatre, he is a severe, even intimidating producer. But in these intimate rehearsals, he exerts authority by power of persuasion and charm. He has lots of sense of humour, too, and he loves an occasional joke at his expense. When we come to the music, Herr Kunsch exchanges a wink with the singers as he begins the sombre theme of the prelude in which the flourishes of festival trumpets break in. A minute after, and everyone is concentrated on Till Ramon's first big solo. Wieland Wagner's voice is the first one heard here.
Also, fürchterliches Weib, um mein Gewissen. Ruhe, widerfällt. Durch dich musste ich verlieren, weil ihr all meine... Ja, du warst dran schuld. Du warst dran schuld. Ich verfluch dich. Ich verwünsch dich. Ja,
sterbliches Weib, was band mich noch mit deiner Ehe? Warum lass ich dich nicht allein? Siehe fort, dahin, wo ein Gewissen Ruhe wiederfällt. Ich muss dich verlieren, mein
The composer's stage directions for the conclusion of the solo are he flings himself on the ground, overpowered by rage and grief. Wieland Wagner has planned to carry out these directions exactly, but again the action does not seem to suit Ramon Vinay. They go over the passage again and again. Vinay takes the concluding bars and flings himself on the ground. No, no, not like that, cries Herr Wagner. They go back. They both fling themselves on the ground, together. Then Herr Wagner, alone. Then Mr. Vinay, alone. No use. This must be thought out again. One begins to wonder. Is Mr. Vinay resisting production? No, it's not that. But if not, why not? It begins to dawn on one that this delving into character is forming the musical interpretation the whole time. And this is true of both singers. Listen here as Wieland Wagner coaches them, where Friedrich says, "You made me, a man of high name and reputation, the accomplice of your lies." To which Ortrud replies, "Who lied? Wer log?"
Wen meinst du denn, wer sollte denn hier gelogen haben? Ich? Ich hab immer die Wahrheit gesagt. Du bist einen Zauberer auf den Main gegangen. Ja, aber ich? Haha, wer log denn schon? Wer log? Wer log? Wer log denn? Wer log? Aber ich lasse ihn jetzt mal ein bisschen schwimmen. Nur
Ja.
Die Bildung an? Wer log? Wer log? Du! Du! Und jetzt müssten wir, Ramon, jetzt müssten wir so kommen. Hat nicht durch sein Gericht.
Ja.
Groß und weggehen von Ortrud. Gott selbst. Spielen wir deutlich, Gott. Gott selbst hat mich gestraft. Er, der einst mein Lachen bestraft.
Wehrlug.
Dann zurückgehen. Und was willst
Des Namen hochgehielt, des Leben allerhöchsten Brei, zu deinem Leben schändlichen Genossen. Sein Gericht, Gott mich dafür geschlagen.
Wieland Wagner is a great innovator, and he sometimes treads perilous ground. No one, certainly not myself, is going to agree with all he does. Here in this first scene of Lohengrin Act 2, we come on some perilous ground. When Telramund cries out that God has proved him wrong, Ortrud answers with the sole word, Gott. Wagner put a laughing motif in the orchestra, but it passes rapidly, and this important point can be missed. So Wieland Wagner proposes that Irene Dalis should follow the word Gott by a laugh.
Und jetzt sagen Sie, das könnte mir so passen. Dich hinter dem lieben Gott zu verschanzen, lieber Freund. Ha, Gott! Schöne Ausrede. Natürlich, wenn du was verbockt hast, dann ist es entweder das Horoskop oder der liebe Gott. Das könnte dir so passen. Keine Spur, lieber Freund.
In deiner Liebe, schändlichen Genossen, hat nicht durch sein Gericht Gott mich dafür geschlagen.
Ein furchtbares Gelächter in der Pause. Gott! In die Pause. Na und wie? Ja. Was bist du für ein Weib? Mich graust vor dir. Man kann's ekstatisch spielen. Ich glaube, dass da plötzlich ein Grauen, spielen wir doch ein Grauen vor dieser Frau. Wissen Sie, wie man plötzlich auch bei menschlichen Auseinandersetzungen plötzlich sagt, mein Gott, hab ich mich in dir geirrt. Du bist ja in Wirklichkeit ein Teufel. Spielen Sie es doch so. Hat nicht durch sein Gericht.
Deine Lüge.
Hat nicht durch sein Gericht.
Noch vier. Schändlichen Genossen. Sein Gericht, Gott mich dafür geschlagen.
Und dann?
Wir wissen so. Ich glaube, Sie berufen sich pathetisch wie im ersten Akt.
Ja.
Gott hat mich geschlagen, ihm gebe ich mich,
Ja.
als Knecht. Denn vom lieben Gott lassen Sie sich schlagen, auf keinem anderen auf der Welt. Das ist Ihre Linie. Wenn mich Gott schlägt, gut, aber sonst niemand.
Du bist frei zu deiner Liebe, schändlichen Genossen. Nicht durch dein Gericht, Gott
conscientious Wagnerites are going to object. I don't myself, for reasons to be given later. We are still in early stages, and the singers plough through to the last section. Here are 3 recordings of this, taken at 10-minute intervals. Notice how the passage is gaining all the time.
Hättest du im Kampf nun einen Finger nimmst, deines Fingers gelegt, schlagen, den Hort, überall in deiner Macht.
Erzähl's mich, was lässt sie mich hin? Durch Gott geschlagen werden wir. Nun liest du sich das Gericht befehlen. So, was ist, Fräulein Ehre ich? Meine Schande kennt dich rächen, Zeugen kennt dich meine Treu, mein Wohle trug ich kennt die Brechen, meine Ehe kennt dich neu. Obwohl das in der Nacht dich vor mir steht, betriebst du jetzt mich noch.
Und jetzt müssen wir die Linie weiterspielen. Du!
Herr Wagner moves to the next scene, and Joe Melchior and I take ourselves off. The rehearsal has lasted for over 3 hours, which passed like 30 minutes.
The next day, Thursday the 5th of July, a rehearsal of the scene was called for 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
We are back at the beginning. Friedrich's solo in which he laments his degradation.
Du stehst auch in deiner Nähe. Warum lass ich dich nicht allein und fliehe fort? Dahin, wo mein Gewissen Ruhe wiederfängt. Dies mußt ich verlieren, mein Ideal, mein Ruhm, nie soll mich nur mehr ziehen. Schwach ist mein Heldentum, die Macht ist mir gesprochen, zertrieben nicht mein Schwert, mein Waffen war zerbrochen, der Flucht, mein Vaterherd.
Es bringt natürlich ein neues Moment in das.
It is hard to keep count of the amount of changes of attitude and movement that Herr Wagner has made. At the moment, Irene Dalis remains on the right side the most of the time, while Mr. Vinay has several changes of position. But the original scheme, whereby Ortrud and Frierich, by calculated stages, reach the inverse of their first position, this beautiful plan has gone now, and I see no worthy alternative. But the music, which is very rarely mentioned in these rehearsals, marches from strength to strength.
Ich werde geflohen, gehängt wie ich, dass ihn mein Blick nicht schände, wie bereute mich. Durch dich muss ich verlieren, mein Ideal, mein Ruhm. Nie soll mich Lob mehr ziehen, schwach ist mein Heldentum. Die Macht ist mir gesprochen, zertrieben liegt mein Schwert, mein Waffen war zerbrochen, der Flucht, mein Vaterherd.
Mein Ehe habe ich verloren. Meine Ehe! Meine Ehe ist